I want to talk about something that's serious and silly at the same time. Let's jump to the story. From Timcast.com, snip for a shake. Nashville hot dog joint giving out free milkshakes with proof of vasectomy.
That's worth it.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet where this dude was like, your children will be going to school with immigrants and weirdo conservatives,
Right.
because liberals are all removing themselves from the gene pool. Here, I'll just break it down very simply for all y'all. More likely to have an abortion, substantially. Substantially less likely to have kids. Substantially more likely to get hysterectomies, vasectomies, to get whatever it's called, the tubes tied.
Yeah.
Man, we're really the party of fun over there.
More likely to sterilize their own children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just gotta say, the liberal left is very unlikely to exist as an ideology or tribal group in 40 years.
I agree. I don't know what everybody's getting so worked up about when they're chanting about like being pro-choice, and it's like they're really just getting rid of it.
Here's the crazy thing.
Not even being a dick. I'm just serious.
Conservatives. The reason why abortion was a guarantee that Roe v. Wade would have been overturned. Anybody in the 90s could have just looked at a simple arithmetic and been like, in 20 years, abortion will be made illegal. Why? Conservatives have kids. Conservatives don't want abortion. Liberals abort their kids. They want abortion to abort their kids. The math is simple. Over a long enough period of time, the voting bloc becomes more conservative and then votes away abortion, bringing back more liberals.
I never thought that would be the main problem with Democrats, is that we aborted all of our voters.
Well, that's why they want to bring in more immigrants. Right. The funny thing is they say that. They're like, we want to bring in more immigrants. We want to strengthen our voting bloc. And then when Tucker Carlson says it, they're like, he's a racist.
Well, of course. That's the magic word. Yeah, of course. Well, even RBG was kind of against Roe versus Wade. I mean, my opinion on it is, different than obviously what my show does. It's sort of do what you do. I don't care. But I just don't think that the way they're going about it right now makes any sense at all.
Well, and when I talk about tribalism and online fighting, how so much of it is fake. And when you actually talk to people who disagree with you in real life, you can figure out that a lot of you actually do want the same thing, because you go on Twitter and it's like, well, one party wants to kill women and one party wants to kill babies. And I think there are still a lot of people out there who they're not pro-choice because they're pro-abortion, but they're pro-choice in like really terrible circumstances. And I think when the left started changing it, I think Libby Edmonds tweeted this, where she had a tweet where it's like when the left stopped saying safe, rare, and legal and started almost bragging and boasting about abortions and pushing the term.
Became, look at all my abortions. It gets a little gross.
Right, and then it's like, all right, well, now people are going to go even harder to overturn it, whereas maybe it was safer when it was just...
I want to give you a little bit of pushback, and I'm going to pull up our good friend Shoeonhead.
Oh, yes.
With the Ground News Blind Spotter. I'm pulling this up quite literally because it's actually a bit that Shoe did. She was doing an ad for Ground News, and she said you can use their Blind Spotter to show where you consume your news. Shoeonhead on Twitter, 86% of the news that she interacts with leans left. 86%. 86.
Does that mean things she comments on?
Comments on, shares, and it's like Washington Post. At a link and Charlotte Observer. We'll go back and we'll do, this is what she did, Ben Shapiro. And Ben Shapiro is 40% right, 39% left.
Wow.
Ooh. So this is the issue.
Interesting.
You go to a conservative who's pro-life, and they will explain to you the policy, what they think of Roe v. Wade, and why. You go to a liberal, and they'll say the right are evil and they hate women.
Well, that's what I used to say. I mean, that was the conversation I had with Seamus the first time I came on the show. I was legit. That's why I was asking you and Seamus, Lydia, where I was like, hey, can you tell me? Because I literally just heard if you say you're pro-life at all, you just hate women and you want women to give birth to rape babies and like that's your life. And that it's all about Jesus. It
makes sense that they're more likely to remove themselves effectively from the gene pool. And I'm not saying that to be crass or anything, but it's literally true.
Can you take me into that?
You want to plug?
Oh yeah, I want to see Jamie.
I want to see Jamie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
this is good.
Jamie's changed a lot.
What's your Twitter? Is it just Jamie?
It's my name. This is just a way to plug my Twitter, by the way. Oh, my Twitter. It's at Jamie Kilstein.
No, he's biased. Don't follow him.
I'm still super. Nice. Am I still super left?
Wow.
You're super left.
Wow.
It's gonna take a while to undo that.
That's
wow. Yeah, it's 20 years.
What's your Twitter, Dave?
At Landau Dave.
Could I
Landau.
Could I just take this moment to say that I think that needing to defend your idea.
Look at this guy.
Oh,
Dave
look at that.
Landau.
I love it.
Perfectly balanced
That's
as all
what you
things
want.
should be.
That is what you want.
Yeah,
Look
just
at biased Crowder over here.
Ha.
Very little.
Can everybody who calls me now a right wing grifter? Can I just send them over to this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This political blog spot, what's called Blind Spotters.
I don't know if that would help the case.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
I
Look
don't
at
know.
this.
I don't.
Oh no, they're saying I'm a right wing grifter.
Oh, I got you. Oh, I got you.
Look at this. It's because you interact with Timcast the most.
Oh,
Maybe
interesting.
it's
Yeah.
the only one I've seen where it's the majority of it is center.
But it's because you Timcast.
I mean,
Timcast
that's
is
kind of
centrist.
Timcast.
that's cool though. I
What
think.
else
Oh, look
is
at that
there?
Sour Patch Lids.
Oh no, not her.
Yeah, that's a badge
Oh
of honor.
snap!
You're a
oh.
leftist.
Wait a
I've
second.
always-
Hold on.
I just always feel like you should actually listen to both sides,
I
but
know,
the
right?
one
Yeah.
side is becoming really just way too
You know
crazy.
why this is?
Also, I no longer try. Oh, because
You know what that is?
you're
I
trolling
follow,
them.
No, yeah, that too. But also because I follow a bunch of journalists.
Ah,
That's pretty
we're
much
almost
why
the
I'm on
same.
Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think
similar.
it was actually the same.
Tim, that's good.
So
Yeah.
you look at me, you look at Ben Shapiro, you look at Elon Musk, you look at Michael Malice, you look at even Jack Posobiec has got more left on his than leftists, but it's obvious. This is the issue that's always been with the left.
I'm still disturbed that mine looked like Noam Chomsky was on Twitter. That was very upsetting.
Yeah.
I think.
But this is why Blind Spotter is great.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ground News. We're not doing a spot spot for them, but this is the issue when it comes to pro-life. This is the issue when it comes to taxes.
Yep.
They literally have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, and by the way, that is kind of actually proof to what I was saying, where, I was talking to Dave about this beforehand, and, I've gotten a couple. I mean, your fans have been awesome, but I've had a couple of my old school fans be like, I'm leaving, or I'm not going to support the Patreon just because I'm on the show. They haven't listened to me on the show. They haven't listened to what I said, but because I'm on the show, I'm giving credit to Tim, which therefore is somehow I'm like a Trump supporter. It's been very weird messages. And that is how a lot of them think, where it's the second you talk to someone on the right, you're automatically a grifter. You're automatically supporting everything they've ever said. And what I'm really enjoying about talking to more conservatives or people in the middle or libertarians or liberals who are disenfranchised with the left is I'm just educating myself. I feel like for the first time ever, because like you saw my chart where I wasn't being sarcastic when I was like, I could tell me pro-life stuff because I don't know. Like I just learned about guns this year only because I moved to Texas. But it was just, I just had my talk. You're given your talking points. These are the talking points you just shout, whether it's you're racist, whether it's you want kids to die if you're pro-gun, you want women to die if you're pro-life, blah, blah, blah. And then you just do those and you just try to shout as loud as you can, and then you get retweets, and then you go to bed sad and depressed, and that's it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it was a sweet life.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick before we move on, I think the case can be made that encouraging diversity of viewpoints like the right wing does much more than the left does, and the right has to defend their views much more than the left does, because it's much more of an echo chamber on Twitter for the left wing. But I think that encouraging that diversity of thought is going to mean the literal difference between life or death as far as demographics go. We're going to keep right wingers alive.
What I think this proves is that if you are a balanced individual, you are right wing, and if you are in a cult, you are left wing.
I don't know. I fall center. Like I had 62% center, but I don't think you need to pick a side.
But that's because you actually don't do a lot of news. It was like Timcast.com.
I don't click on a lot of political mags. That's for sure.
Look, my point is, all of these right wing personalities, Ben Shapiro, his news is from a balanced perspective, and they're like he's far right. Michael Malice, he's new right, and he's more he consumes more left news than I do.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you are someone who gets your news from a mixed batch, and you formed your opinions off of real information, you are considered right wing. That's insane. The left are people who are in an echo chamber who have no idea what's happening in the world, and the right is everyone else.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I assure you, too, like we looked at Crowder's, it's probably because when we look at our show all day, we all watch CNN. We all watch every bit of left-wing media because we have to look at our side against that. So that's the only thing we consume all day is to see what their side is. We don't watch any other news source than that. So I'm sure by the time he jumps on Twitter, it's like, all right, well, what's this, and this, to kind of see where those certain talking points are. For me, like when I got into you, it was because somebody who had a viewpoint I had where I always felt that I was left. I was always raised in that kind of group, friends, whatever. I just thought the world was a certain way. I don't even know if I'd say right or whatever this is now. I just know that it's completely gone to a place where I have been pushed over to this side in the business that I'm in, being a comedian, wanting what I want. Like, it's like we were talking about punk music. It's like Johnny Rotten said he never thought he'd live to see the day that, you know, the rights were the ones giving the middle finger to the establishment. Right. Or Trey Parker said that the right is the new punk rock. It's just different now. It's shifted because it's gone so far the other way that is anything that you say is just completely unforgivable. And 95% of the internet outrage is for currency, not because they actually feel anything. I really believe that.
So I view that as the exception on the right and the rule on the left.
Yeah. Yes.
The right has a whole bunch of people who are genuinely saying, like, here are my thoughts. And then the left has the majority of their prominent figures are, what do I have to say to rile people up?
Right.
Dave,
the right has those people, but
yeah, they do.
It's the exception, not the rule. And the left has some good people who make points they believe in, but they're not the most prominent.
Dave, as a comic, was there, I don't really know, was there like a transition or like a creep moment for you? Because we were talking about you were opening for Chappelle when Chappelle was doing stuff against George Bush and all this stuff. When did you just get the gig at Crowder's as a gig and then it started happening, or was there like a creep into
I was at Anthony Cumia's show, who I always loved from Opie and Anthony.
That's right.
And I was there for years, and I was already then, and I used to sub Mike Malice's show all the time because he would go on the road, do different shows and everything, and I just like doing his show because I just turned it into just kind of like a weekend update of, you know, dick jokes that Mike would appreciate and then make it as dark as humanly possible. And I always liked doing that, but because I joined that network, all of a sudden I had people angry at me because of something that Anthony didn't actually say, but was said that it was said.
Right.
A guy who was Patrice O'Neal's best friend in a show everybody wanted to be on, who all of a sudden was an outcast.
That's what I grew up on. I grew up on all of the, you know, I was opening for Patrice, who I wouldn't have found out about if it wasn't Opie and Anthony, and all those guys.
And Anthony is one of my heroes. So now I'm sitting next to one of my heroes, and you see this bitterness come out, where all of a sudden it's like, well, that guy's racist, that guy's this, that guy's that. I can't believe Mike Malice is alt-right. It's like, no, you don't understand anything, and you just want to be enraged either by the fact that I'm doing something that you want to do, or because somebody else has told you something that you want to believe.
Yes.
But you weed out who your real friends are very, very fast.
You're telling me, for sure.
And I've learned that through even being on Crowder. Crowder and I clicked. His dad grew up in Detroit, kind of by where I did, and we connected. That's how I met Steven. And as a result of that, yeah, I've caught a lot of crap for it, but at the same time, I've gotten a lot of great fans from it and met a lot of good people, and that's just part of this. I mean, that's just part of this game.
With Jamie, it was actually a really interesting transformation. I remember we first met. He was protesting one of our events, and he threw a brick at me.
Right.
Yeah. And then we brought him inside, and he was like, I will always be your rival and enemy. And then I handed him a check, and he looked at the number and said, I'm pro-life when?
Yeah. I actually wrote MAGA on the brick.
He got on the phone. He told his girlfriend to keep the baby.
That was actually a joke we did on Cast Castle, where Jamie's like, I'm not going to these right-wing events. And then, was it Carter?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's a bummer. They're taking a private plane.
I'm like, you know what? I got to bring everyone together.
Yeah. I was throwing a milkshake at a gay Asian reporter, right?
Did comedy clubs ever try to stop you, or because you had a following from this new audience, they didn't care and it was just more people on Twitter?
At first, for a second, they did, and then like some were like, well, I don't. Then tickets were being sold, and they were like, I don't mind, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's business.
I am loud with Crowder as well. Yeah.
It's all business, and people have and I remember. My buddy Freddie's a black dude who runs Hartford, Connecticut. Not to say race, but it is important to the story. There were Proud Boys standing in line, and I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a good look. And he goes, why? They're not allowed to laugh? And I was like, why do I say anything? Yeah. It's just because it's all a business when you break it into the actual reality of a situation.
So what I'm really interested in doing is we've got Timcast skateboards that we just designed. We've got Step on, Snack, and Find Out. It's like just like the T-shirt, And then we have some stock, just like it says like Timcast. And it's like I've sent them to skate shops because I mentioned this before. If you have a skate shop and you want some free boards, we're gonna send you free boards, and you can sell them for whatever you want. Skate shops, mind you. And I want to put on contests. And so I've had a conversation with some people about contests, and like, oh man, you know, people might be worried about like the politics, and I'll be like, we'll do a massive cash prize. Like we obviously can't rival some of the biggest cash prizes, but we'll get a couple grand up there. So it's like, it will be a contest. People are like, oh, you know, like it's a couple grand for a day's work, you know, or more. And I was told, yeah, but some people might just be like, it's not worth it because you're gonna make maybe 40 grand in contests this year, and you do that one for $5 grand. And I was like, 10 grand first place. Now all these people who might pretend to have political convictions might be like,
Oh, and by the way, can I tell you,
quarter
like,
of my yearly income in one day. Come on down to the skate contest. We're not going to do anything crazy. We're not going to be political. We're going to have a regular old skate contest, but we're going to do a good cash prize, big event, bring out the families, get everybody invited, and we'll see who really is going to put their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
Well, and also the
done,
the frustrating thing for what I try to tell people, the ones who are bailing on me for being on the show, is I've been on the show, this is my 4th time in a couple weeks. I've already had fans come to my show who discovered me on here, who didn't know about me or discovered me on here. And what the left doesn't understand is now I have a room full of liberals and conservatives. And some stuff I say makes fun of liberals, and some stuff I say makes fun of conservatives, and a lot of stuff I say makes fun of me, and we're all laughing together. That is what you should want. You should want conservatives to hear my view. You should want liberals to hear my view. When we do just stay in this echo chamber just to feel good about ourselves, you're actually not convincing anyone. That's why there's so much infighting on the left, and because they have no one else to argue with, because they don't even talk to conservatives or moderates. So then they just like eat their own.
Mm-hmm. Resistance. It's a natural part of existence. And we need resistance to survive. If a tree doesn't have wind resistance, it falls over and dies.
Yep.
It makes it stronger. We need that.
Yeah, and part of comedy should be it should feel a little icky at times. Like you want it to feel a little evil and fun. Mm-hmm. Like if everything you say is supposed to be offensive or is never offensive, why go to comedy?
Right.
It's supposed to feel a little bit too much.
Yeah.
You know, why would you go to something that triggers you?
Right. Well,
like why it's supposed to?
Here's the deal. Like here's the deal. Look fat. With these comedy things, you've got these millennials who are fluffy, pink, and uncalloused, right?
Squishy.
They're squishy and frail. Their parents took care of all the problems for them. They grew up in the epitome of luxury, so they've never actually been struck for any reason. No one should be, but it kind of happens for a lot of people.
It should be.
Yeah.
Well,
but I know what you mean.
No, I've tweeted that. Everyone should work retail, get punched in the face, and one more thing. I don't know.
Sometimes that can all happen in a day working retail.
Yeah.
Yes. Here's my point. These people are soft.
Yep.
Yes.
So when you say a mean word to them, it's the most pain they've ever felt. Mm-hmm. So to them, it's like, you have caused me the most pain I've ever experienced. Growing up in the city, you get into fights. I don't care if someone says naughty words to me.
Right.
But what happens then is they go to a comedy show. The most comedy they've heard is probably like Teen Titans Go or, Fairly Odd Parents or Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're watching these doofy little cartoons where the joke is that someone spilled milk and then cried. And it's like, you're crying over spilled milk. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah. Then you go to a comedian and he calls you a slur, and you're like, and it's like he punched you in the gut. It's the worst pain you've ever experienced. They lose their minds.
Well, I finally started reading Coddling of the American Mind, and some of these college protests, when they were protesting Milo or protesting Ben Shapiro, they were literally saying, we have to use violence because their words are violence against me. And it's like, they're not violence, though.
Yeah, that concerns me. You could break someone's eardrums with a loud enough noise. In that instance, volume amplification can be construed as violence, but the definitions of the words are not violence.
No.
Of course, what's his name? Charles Manson. Sorry, Marilyn.
Yes.
Different Manson.
I wouldn't apologize to Marilyn. He's got a whole bunch of things.
He's going through something right now.
That's new.
You can incite violence with words, but the words are not violence. Violence happens as a result of the incitement of the usage of the peaceful form of communication.
Yes, absolutely.
And comedy's just fun when it's edgy, man. I mean, the stuff we grew up on.
You're supposed to have an edge. That's the point. Your edge may not even be dirty, though. I mean, that's the thing. Stephen Wright has an edge. It's not a dirty edge, but it's an edge. Yeah. I mean, there's an edge to everything.
Some edges are sharp, some are blunt.
Yeah.
You can do really good, wholesome comedy, for
Absolutely.
sure. But it's
Nanette.
weird.
I'm just kidding.
No.
But talking about poop and stanky,
bundled.
like you got to be able to talk about the dirty stuff, too.
You have to. I really.
George Carlin had like the hippie dippy weatherman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was non-offensive.
Yeah.
It poked at nobody. It was not edgy at all. It was a good bit. It was just an impersonation of a silly weatherman.
And it was a trend, it was him sort of evolving from that two-man group that he was in and getting into this new hippie phase. And
and then all of a sudden he stopped telling jokes and started just
railing on the federal government.
That was
awesome.
And then getting arrested with Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, literally with him. And
literally.
Tim, I'm glad you brought up Carlin too, because it's been so interesting on Twitter in different different times in the last couple of years seeing the right use Carlin to hold up their point, or then seeing the left use Carlin to hold up their point, and it's like, that's how you know he was good. That's how you know he was good. He was just speaking his honest thoughts. And if the right can grab onto it because it's something he said about free speech, cool. If the left can grab onto it because it's something he said about environmentalism or abortion, cool. He wasn't trying to pander to either side. He was just being him.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.